megawatts of solar. Ooh, good call, Lily. So we help support the development of the 2.5 megawatts of solar and battery storage that Oahu will own and operate and has designed everything about. So I'm super excited to have a conversation today about how we support the workforce on Molokai to build those projects, build future projects, maintain all the projects, design all the projects, the local vision. So I think, Lily, can I pass it back to you? Because I think you are the
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I was just getting intrigued with the chat box here. So we have folks posting their introductions. So awesome to see the representation. Before we motion into the portion where we're going to give our union reps an opportunity to kind of share their background and how it correlates with renewable energy and possibly a partnership in creating a very solid pipeline for our Molokai residents so they too can get trained and with hopes one day be employed within that particular sector. Before we get to that point, I did want to give our former president, Todd Yamashita, an opportunity to share. So he was able to attend an in-person conference, and we want to hear all about it.
Sure. Yeah, first of all, I want to say we've had close to 50 meetings now with the public and with our community. And I just want to thank each and every one of you personally, for having the interest, for wanting to help us and wanting to be a part of this really exciting movement. So I just wanted to start with that. And, it's kind of a big deal. A lot of organizations work internally a lot. And for us, transparency and working with our partners and network has always been first and foremost. So thank you guys for continuing to show up. Yeah, I went to the continent, which is a big deal if you're an island boy. And got to go out to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest. And that is typically a film and music festival. This year was the first year that they included energy into the festival. And so the Department of Energy was front and center. And even small communities like Molokai got the invite for this. So I was one of 3 indigenous communities that were selected from 14 grantees of the Department of Energy for energy storage for social equity. That's one of the major grants. It's just a hard one, ES4SE. But that's a grant that we've been working on now for over a year, and we're about to transition from technical assistance and planning into boots on the ground and start installing some systems for our people. So I got to talk about that experience. But I would say, some of I'm just going to go over the highlights real quick. I got to see the Energy Secretary, Granholm, talk about what this administration is doing in terms of renewable energy. And it was really exciting to hear from her right from the top. It was a full court press of Inflation Reduction Act. What are the different benefits? And it was really surprising because this group is got their ears so close to the railroad. We know what's coming. And so there were no surprises there. It was a lot of rebates, heat pumps, EVs, and, all of these things that can help move renewables along. And what I realized is that, and this is what I spoke about, I had the chance to present. And what I spoke about was that there's 40 million people in this country who are renters, and there are another 40, or about the same amount, roughly the same amount of people, that are considered to be in the impoverished area, right? And so I really had to put it out there that there's 40 million people in this country that all of these new rebates and everything else that it doesn't apply to, right? And so if it's just our entitled and those people with equity who are, benefiting by renewables, what about the rest of us? We're getting left behind. And so myself and the other 2 speakers, we got to really let the industry know who we are, where we are, and why we're here. And, you know, that was, I felt like that was a really important process. You know, we cannot leave 40 million people behind. And the exciting thing about this, you guys, is that the Department of Energy making this pivot towards working with communities, that's brand new. So they need that kind of input. And we're the guinea pigs. Molokai was lucky enough to get in on this process and sit at the front of the class and participate. And I just want to say, I'm so proud of this group. I'm so proud of Molokai, our island and our community, because we succeeded in getting ourselves out there. And there's no doubt in my mind that they were taking down notes. This is something that they're going to improve on. Anyway, that's it for the report. I had a great time, and I'm just grateful to be able to represent. So thank you, guys.
Yeah, Todd, thank you so much. Todd has shown, we've gotten to watch him right from the very beginning when we voted him into being president when he wasn't at a meeting, that just watching him just, you know, he came in with so much and just sprout and grow. And I can tell that you gave such an impassioned presentation that it caught those people in industry and government their ear. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you from everybody.
I think we're back to Liliana.
All right, Ali, I guess we can motion into that portion where we're gonna go ahead and include our union reps. And then I think we have a breakout interactive activity that you wanted to include.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Lily. And thanks to Justin and the rest of, I haven't met the rest of you yet. I have met Justin. Thank you guys all for joining us today. I'm is it pitch hitting or pinch hitting when you, either way, I'm stepping in for Ikaika, who is on dad duty right now, but he's joining us in a second. And Ikaika is our connection to Justin and the rest of the crew, because we have been talking about what it looks like to support folks who want to enter the renewable energy industry, what kind of resources we need to help bring in, who do we need to partner with to build not just people who know about solar panels, but people who have all the classifications that we might need to build really a robust and well-structured workforce that will be successful in the long term. So I'm stalling a little bit because I want Ikaika to come on and introduce Justin. And I think that he also has talked to these guys about what they plan to share. And I think we'd be happy to hear anything that you guys want to share. And then we'll have kind of a conversation after the fact about after you guys get a sense to share, then we'll have a conversation about what it is that Oahu needs to do, how we need to co-design the support system that Oahu writes grants for and puts in place so that Molokai residents are the ones designing, building, supervising, overseeing, training our future renewable energy workforce. I've stalled long enough and Ikaika is not here yet, so maybe we'll let him introduce you after the fact. But Justin, can I pass it over to you and have you introduce the rest of your team and then just share from there? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Justin Pu'oi. I'm the international lead organizer for the state of Hawaii for the IBEW, which is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. We've been, I would say we have close to 750,000 members across the United States and Canada. We have jurisdictions as far as utility, electrical construction, outside construction as well, and telecom, and we also have, of course, solar as well. We have here in Hawaii, we have 3 locals. Local 1357, whose main component is Hawaiian Telecom. Then we also have Local 1260, who is main is Hawaiian Electric, Maui Electric, Kauai Co-op, and Hawaii Light out on the Big Island. And then we have Local 1186, who is here today. They handle a lot of the construction, anything to do with construction, electrical construction, outside construction, inside your house, high voltage lines. Pretty much they're well-rounded. They also have a telecom work as well. And so when Ikaika came to me, Ikaika asked, what does a union workforce look like? And so that's how we got involved, because a lot of our laws and our statutes revolve kind of around what the unions do and what IBEW does as well, especially for safety and general sense, right? So I brought today Terry Uehara. Terry, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, Justin asked me to sit in. My prime responsibility with I'm part of actually training for IBEW Local 1186, and my main responsibility is to oversee the inside apprentices. Inside meaning it's just basically our construction electricians. Anybody wanting to get into the electrical trade would come to, and we do an apprenticeship for them, and then help them to actually, once they finish off, qualify for the Hawaii State Electrical Journeyman license. So everyone that tops off as a journeyman through our program also is a licensed electrician in the state of Hawaii. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have Mark.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Pongsavat, organizer for IBEW Local 1186. Primarily to work together and to see how can we help the industry in Hawaii for inside work, outside work construction, and also for like renewable energies, covering like PVs, EVs, and all those aspects as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing to what we'll have to offer and share your guys' information as well. Thank you.
And then Dennis, are you available? I know Dennis was in his car driving. Oh, there it is. Dennis, can you give a little background on what you do? And
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. I'm an electrician by trade. Been in the trade for 13 years. Been an organizer for Local 1186 for 25 years now. And my duties are to go out there and get the non-represented people represented by 1186. That's my general duties. That's about it, I think, Oh, by the way, I'll be in and out because I'm troubleshooting a person's house at the moment. So I'll be listening in.
thanks, Dennis.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, so that's the team. We also have Leighton Torda, he's an assistant business manager, and then we also have business manager Damien Kim. He's the head of IBEW Local 1186. And so, like I was saying with Kaika, we've definitely developed a relationship over our years. And I know Kaika is definitely for unions and all for unions. So that's why we were be able to get involved and just kind of see what you guys are looking at. And we're here to make sure that you guys are in your safety lines and to see how we can, I guess, make sure that, the workforce is definitely union. We definitely would love to have that. And then we'll kind of see where we go from there. So I know Ikaika just jumped on. Ikaika, if you wanted to give some 2 cents.
No, I don't need to say much. Just I'm glad that we're all talking together. Thank you very much, Justin, and your gang from the union. Mahalo. My background before working with Ali was an organizer at Local 5, the Hotel Workers Union. And my belief has always been that, the best way to move our community forward is by working together. So unions and cooperatives, they're sort of to me, kind of very similar, because it's all about how do we find unity, how do we, advance collectively. So thanks guys for, for getting together. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So I guess the main is, Terry, can you kind of give a little background on what the apprentices do, and how they're involved with solar, and what the workforce development, I guess, what the workforce would look like if with our signatories, I guess you want to say, and how that would look for a cooperative?
Well, from the training side, our apprentices will be taught almost the full gamut as far as basic electrical installation, safety of the public, safety installation for the public. And also, as you guys know, yes, green renewable energy is hitting our industry. So by the time our apprentices complete their program, they've went through their curriculum of PV installation, the proper installation for PV, how to keep the system safe from the public in case anybody, happens to come across in connection with the PV panels. The other thing is also infrastructure. As you know, with the PV coming in, the utilities are utilizing that energy, and we teach our apprentices about battery storage systems that is coming up big in the industry, installation, proper installation, also infrastructure for the EV chargers. It's a movement coming from the national and put by our President Biden that we have to be holding a certain certification to install for infrastructures for at least the chargers at this time. So our apprentices, that once they complete, also have that training, and once they actually, besides get their license, they also get that certification for install. So our process of for training is kind of a long road for some of us, but it does take roughly approximately 55 years to finish the program, to get their license and then become journeymen, qualified journeymen to do the install for the renewables. How's that, Justin? Is okay?
It's perfect, Terry. Perfect, Terry. Yeah, so I guess that's, with us, we have we have signatories that build solar. We have our qualified electricians, our journeymen, also our apprentices that also do that as well. Not sure how, I know this is just the board, not sure how you guys were looking at putting a workforce of boots on the ground. If you guys are looking for signatories, if you guys are looking for, hiring your own or being part of for the bench. Mark, I guess you can talk a little bit about how we refer our electricians out if they do decide to sign as a signatory.
Yes, of course. So, so Local 1186, we're a referral hall. So basically, whenever we have like signatory contractors who are assigned to us, we provide the manpower, the qualified manpower for inside construction, outside construction. So in this case, like if you're looking for manpower for installation of PV or solar panels and that type of sort of renewable energy, we have qualified personnel. So the companies or organization or signatory will contact us and to request manpower, then we will be able to provide that manpower needs. In addition, we work hand in hand with other signatories that was within our local to see what type of work that is out there. Like for example, like the other solar project that is going around in the state of Hawaii, like AES. I believe there's several projects in Big Island. So those larger projects, like we're talking about like 7 to 10 megs, 30 megs with battery storage energy. They're I said most of the work is all on us because we have a project labor agreement with our signatory contractors as well.
Thanks, Mark. Dennis, did you want to add in anything? Other than that, I think we can open it up for questions. If Dennis is good.
Oh, sorry guys. Yeah, I'm pretty good. That was good.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, I guess Ali or Lillian.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Maybe let's start with questions in case anybody on the call wants to ask you guys questions about what you shared. And then after that, we can go into some kind of brainstorming together. What questions does everyone have?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Sorry. If you guys don't know me yet, I'm always exuberant about participating, but I just want to maybe help with the overall conversation and start off by saying I'm so grateful to have you guys here today. It to me, seeing brown people, Hawaiian and local people representing this space, that's one of the most important things to me. And I just want to talk a little bit about, Molokai, right? We have one half of a licensed electrician here, and I say that because he's only here half the time. So our community is in a state of oppression when it comes to needing electrical work, plumbing work, HVAC work. We don't have the people to do the jobs, and when we do, we can't afford the people who can do the jobs. And I think the connection we're trying to make here is we've seen big projects, right? When the big projects come, the people come with it, and the end game is that our people, if they were minorly involved, that's great, but for the most part, our people don't get to work on these jobs, and the jobs themselves don't necessarily serve the people here, right? And so time and time again, we've seen various forms of oppression, meaning that we see all these opportunities come and go, and a lot of times our communities are left, this community is left the way it is now, which is no options, right? So I just feel like this is so important because we now have close to 20 people who are certified to assist in solar installations. And I know, maybe not everybody's hungry for something like this, but we have a handful of people that would really like to get the certifications in order to safely and legally serve our own community. And so I hope we can talk more about that. Thank you, guys.
And I think that what I have to say feeds right into what Todd's talking about. And this might fit in the brainstorming part of this, but I'm wondering how we can get these people to those next levels of certification to become certified journeymen without them having to leave the island to do this. I mean, maybe for part of it if they have to, but here we're working on at least a dozen, if not 15 residential installs on our island, planning for in the next year. How is it that we can get these people to get their hours, to get their training, and to do that on island? And that's why we're really wanting to outreach to you for your ideas on that.
And we do have access to, my father is a supervising electrical engineer. He's got all of his certificates in almost every area, including in the renewables, except for one, I think. So we do have access to people who have the certifications to oversee a lot of the work that we're doing. And to add to, Sequoia's point, when a round trip to and from Molokai for a half-hour flight costs $250, and you cannot even get seats most times, that is a very major reason why. It's another form of oppression. It's another thing that is squarely holding us back, right? If we had the money to go and do all this stuff, we would be doing it.
Mark, I think I saw you come off mute for a second after I think Todd shared. Did you have something you wanted to respond to? I know it wasn't exactly, we haven't asked you questions yet. We've just shared enthusiasm and ideas, but you had something to add?
Yeah, so basically, I know Molokai, so basically you want to keep the workforce on island. We totally understand that. There may be possibilities of maybe working together, because we do have Maui as well. That is one of our training facilities. Maybe Tara can touch up on that as well. So we do have satellite locations. Maui is being probably the nearest. That holds apprenticeship training and certifications and so forth. Terry can probably speak upon that. As for manpower for like labor, like journeyman workers and all that stuff, Maui would probably be the closest county to you folks as well, to maybe help assistance in that sense if there were to be that required need. Maui is similar in the same situation where they're in dire straits of qualified electricians. So we're working on that as well.
Yeah, if I can chime in. Yeah, so on top of what Mark said, yes, we do have training centers all across the state, all on the major islands. With the luxury of Zoom, I guess we can say now, since the COVID, it is able to be to do remote training at times. It would take a bunch of coordination and work on it, but it has been done. And the main concern with apprenticeship and training for us is that besides the schoolwork and the classwork is also the on-the-job training. If we can get jobs out there and have your apprentices or resident apprentices out there working constantly, that's the biggest hurdle we get as far as as far as the industry is bringing in apprentices and just keeping them working with enough jobs out there. Yeah, because 5 years is long. Once it gets slow within a 8-month period, 6-month period, the poor apprentices, they have to wait, and then their apprenticeship takes a little longer. But the ones that persevere and stay with the program, when they hit journeyman, it's a great satisfaction for them, and it was a great achievement for them too. So if we can talk about it, work on it, find some way to do it, there's always a possibility. I'm not closed-minded as far as training goes. I want to train the whole state if I could, and then maybe I can get a bigger training facility than just what the union has. No. But no, we've been creative, excuse me, in certain areas, and we can always try to work together.
Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks. So my question is maybe the flip side of what you're asking or what you're saying, Terry, which is I think the Molokai community has identified X amount of jobs that it knows are coming down the pipeline. There's the 2 CBRE projects, and then I think Ali was at 15 or Liliana 15 households. Okay, so we know that there's a certain number of jobs that are in the pipeline. And so I guess my question is, what does that translate to in terms of labor size, labor force? How many people is that for the PV, for the for all the balance of plant kind of stuff? And so if we wanted to say, create essentially an installation and maintenance cooperative that works alongside Ho'ahu, that does those jobs and that goes through the training process using those jobs, how big is that force? And does that translate into essentially a sustainable unit, both from the training side, but also for the long-term sustainability of a workforce for the island, like what Todd was saying? How do we make sure that there's always the amount of people on the island that can build these projects and then keep them maintained, going forward? And the other thing that I wanted to just mention real brief is, there's other projects on other islands, that we're like, for instance, Ali and I are, and some other folks on this call, like Auntie Lori, we're talking about, building community-owned farms on community-owned solar in Waianae, for instance. I would love it if there's surplus labor, if we could get to the point where there's extra labor on Molokai, because there's so many people that have been trained that then we can say, okay, we need a few people to come and work in Waianae for a week or two, but then go back home and be available to the people of Molokai primarily, so that Molokai starts to be seen as a source of labor and a source of ike and intellect and expertise, instead of something that needs to pull labor from Oahu or from Maui. So I know it's kind of I think it's a good stretch goal, for us to think, okay, how do we, make Molokai so powerful in this regard that other folks, other communities start to rely on it for its labor. Anyway, so if we can, I'm sorry, I talked a lot, but if we could, Terry, maybe if you could help kind of, if we have 15 households that we know need to be built out, and also these 2 CBRE projects, what size of workforce is that?
I don't know. As far as that goes, I would say, Mark, would you have a better idea than myself? My main thing is supply and demand, I guess. Then it's based on the contractors and how big the project is. As you know, with the apprentices, also there is a ratio of qualified journeymen that have to train our apprentices, as well as for proper training and safety observations. So our standards require that for every 2 journeymen, at least 1 apprentice is on the project. So Mark, would you say, I think the last one we went out, I believe we had, looking to maybe say they had 10 journeymen on the project, then you would at least have, you'd be allowed 5 apprentices out there to help out. So, that's the thing.
Yeah, that would be a fair estimate. So to going back on those 2 CBRE projects, those in that magnitude, a typical installation size workforce could range from total numbers of electricians could be maybe less than 10, depending on the size. That's just doing an electrical installation itself. Terry spoke about the rules of the ratios in the state of Hawaii, right? There's rules of everything as well, like how everything should be qualified electricians to do the work in that standpoint. So that's one of the things that we push for, to have our members, our electricians, to be qualified, licensed to do that type of work. And then to go and talk about that 15 projects for the rooftop solar for residential, that's a small manpower. There probably could be like two electricians, 3, maybe 1 apprentice. So like a 3-man crew could probably do that work in that aspect.
Thank you.
Mark, can I ask a quick clarifying question? Then I want to pass it to the person who has their hand up here. For that, the 2 CBRE projects, one of them is 2.5 megawatts and about 7 acres worth of solar panels, and the other one is 250 kilowatts. Does the numbers that you estimated, less than 10 electricians, is that the right size, or that be more people for that size project?
So probably we need a little bit more information on that, on specification wise, but typically we would see in our line of work with that size of those projects would range, for example, on Oahu, a project that range for like maybe a 1 meg project could be an electrical team of maybe like less than a dozen. Just that would be like a fair estimate. That's with including supervising foremans and also journey workers and also apprentices as well, right? Because they have to encompass the whole scope of work of electrical with the conduit, the underground, the branch circuits, all the safety apparatus and so forth, even if you have like battery options as well. So there's a lot of variables to that. So it could go up or down, but and then who's doing the installation of the supports? Is it going to be electrical as well? Is it going to be a different line of work, or like a labor crew? So that kind of varies on the size of the manpower needs.
And Mark, that's 12 individuals for how long?
It all depends on the size of the projects. We've seen projects on Oahu or our other neighbor islands could range 6 to 8 months, because it goes from different stages of projects, right? From underground to site work to installation of supports and apparatuses. So there's many various range. So at its peak could be somewhere in the teens, and then it goes down when there's like turnovers and so forth. But like I said, there's a lot of variables to add on with the type of installation, equipments, apparatus, batteries. Is it just straight PV? And also, with that being said, you also like to consider the turnover to like inspections as well, yeah?
Thanks, Mark. I'd love to pass it to Mendocino. You've got your hand up. Do you want to share what you have or ask a question?
Yes, my name is Roland Yartsoff. I'm a resident of Molokai, and I went through the PV training with that they have projects to work on shortly after they complete the training, so that they have the hands-on work to reinforce and be able to remember what they have learned. Certain technical things such as how do we go about crimping a ferrule onto a wire, remembering whether wiring in series or parallel is going to increase voltage or amperage. If someone doesn't have an extensive background in electrical work, these are things that need to be reinforced, and it's ideal that they would have projects to work on, several projects within a couple of months after completing their training. So to that end, I would point out that one area where Oahu could be helpful is, let's say, funding could be found to make a gift of a solar system that would be enough to power a standalone off-grid kitchen. We have on the island many people who live off-grid and they buy ice every day or every other day. They don't, or they don't have refrigeration. They don't have kitchen appliances, but they do have the land on which it could be put. So let's say funding could be found for perhaps 4 different systems which would provide enough power to run a refrigerator, a blender, a food processor, a slow cooker. That might be in the range of $4,000 to $5,000. So an announcement could be made to the community that Oahu is going to make this gift to 4 qualified applicants. And to qualify, they need to own their land and meet Oahu halfway financially, which would be, you clear enough space for us to install a ground-mounted PV system, and then you put up a structure such as a 20-foot square, and then we will provide the equipment and the labor to do this. So if that funding could be found, one, we're doing something pro-social for 4 families, but also provides the opportunity for people who have gone through our introductory training to get into the field and start working on projects so they can reinforce what they have learned. So that's just one concept. And if it's not this gifting concept, there need to be projects that happen shortly after people graduate from the introductory course in order to reinforce what they have learned. Thanks.
Thanks, Roland. I think that's a great idea for Oahu to be thinking about how they create a pipeline of projects to keep that practice and reinforcement up. Anybody else have questions for our IBW folks?
I would like a clarifying question. So I want to be clear when we're talking about 2 journeymen to 1 apprentice. The way I heard it the first time was that they're required to have an apprentice, Or is it the other way that you can't have more than one apprentice per 2 journeymen?
It's the other way around, is that if the project, I mean, if the contractor deems that he don't need an apprentice, they can have journeymen, but so it's not required to have an apprentice on the project. But if you do need to have apprentice on the project, so you need, and should I more clarify, is that the 2 licensed journeymen to an apprentice.
Great, thank you.
Good question, Sequoia. Anybody else have questions for these guys?
This is Auntie Laurie. I just wanted to know if Dennis could come to my house. I need an electrician. Nah, I just joking. I joking, but I serious. Can everybody come just to know? I tell you, every day on Molokai, all you hear is people in need of help for, you know, the vocational trades and skilled trades, yeah, electric, plumbing, and I understand how unions work because right out of high school, I was part of the hotel union and I worked for Sheraton. So since then, I always did support unions because I felt that instead of getting, you know, minimum wage work, the unions advocated for all of us workers on the ground to receive a livable wage. And ever since then, I've supported unions, and I know that unions do support the skilled workers and workers because I have a son-in-law who's a journeyman too in construction. So I understand, you know, that you want to get people under the HUI, under the union to train them and then meet all of the qualifications and above all safety. Yeah? Safety is the main concern in our industry. So I wanted to really thank you guys before we get any further for coming and talking to us today and trying to see how you can help our community here on Molokai, train up our people over here. So hopefully one day they can, I don't have to beg Dennis for come to my house, and I can give you guys deer meat and whatever you like and pay you way on the $1,000 on Mokulele to get here. Oh, thank you very much.
Fly me
Back
there.
to
I
you.
can go too. I'm a licensed journeyman. No.
Yay. Watch out, Mark. I will call you because I needed you yesterday. Sorry, who's next? Liliana?
Yeah, I did want to once again, you know, thank all the union reps for coming out to share an important portion that I can hear that you guys are kind of mentioning what the service is in terms of the union on what you guys can provide. And a lot of that is that humanitarian factor. You know, when it comes to the training, we can provide them with the curriculum, we can provide them with a space, we can provide them with the certification, but when it comes to building this particular student, this particular completer into the workforce and how that wraparound services will look when it comes to employment, but also long after employment in terms of retirement, in terms of, you know, medical coverage, in terms of benefits in which the union offers. I think that portion is really crucial, especially for Molokai. So here on the island, when it comes to workforce sectors, we do have those that are very stable. So that would be like your educational realm, your school teachers, your first responders. We do have some really good like health areas as well as farming areas where the employers are structured in a sustainable manner. And renewable energy is kind of on that brink. So it's still really in that inception stage. And you know, we look to you folks who kind of have that higher power in having the tried and true arrangement when it comes to having such a workforce, but also having the layout so that that particular industry will kind of stick and stay. And when we start to talk about unions, you know, many of the sectors that are still on the island to this day are union based. So I too believe in the structure of union. It is tried and true, you know, you guys been around for many, many, many years, generation after generation. So I don't think it's going to be nothing new to Molokai in terms of the concept of union, being that someone can relate to someone else, may it be a mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, who has been a part of the union, and how that type of employment has carried their family through. So we'd like to see possibly, you know, a similar type of arrangement for the renewable energy workforce.
Yeah.
And I think, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sequoia. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Liliana just expressed that so beautifully, and how we would love to be part of co-creating that training so that we could have the trained people, the union workers here on Molokai. Oh
Yeah, definitely. I think it's maybe Ali and Ikaika sitting down with our business manager, Damien Kim, and see the direction that he would be able to float this into the right direction. You know, the IBEW has set standards all across the state of Hawaii, even in the states as well, and you know, to become, I guess, from the beginning, to become an licensed electrician, it is joining up with the IBEW. It is signing up as a signatory, as you know, if Ali then would sign up as a signatory, and then we can provide the manpower for that, or is it the co-op signing up as a signatory and then providing the manpower from there, or having you folks, you know, if you folks hired people, having them into the training, right? That's how it works, right, Terry? Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, those are the two options before we actually get ahead of ourselves. I didn't want to, you know, misconstrue anything. That's what a part of being in the union is about. It's carrying that name, especially for IBEW. And I know that there is a lot of, personally, because my family does come from Molokai. So, you know, I've been there over the years, and it definitely has changed in, I don't know if you want to say for the good, but it definitely has been oppressed. So, you know, I hope that we can make this work. Again, it's sitting down, you know, later on, if you guys do decide to go union, you know, it's about sitting down with the business manager, with Dennis, and figuring out how to sign you folks up, and get the manpower out to you folks.
That's super exciting. Quick clarification about a signatory. A signatory needs to have a contractor's license. Yeah, like they need to be able to hire the electricians and be contracted to do the work. Is that right?
I can answer that question. That is correct. So the signatory must have a contractor license. So it has to be a specific contractor license. So in the state of Hawaii, it's called a C13. So C13 encompasses all electrical work. There is a C60 which covers the solar industry, but that's strictly solar. There's nothing else, just solar arrays, installation of the array panels. So if a contractor has a C13, then he or she can pretty much do the whole project. My question to you, for the CBRE projects, is there like a contractor? Are you guys being like thinking of like just managing the project, or being a contractor? Is it what is the outlook?
That's a great question. So for the two projects, in order to submit to Hawaiian Electric, we had to demonstrate that we had access to contractors with experience. Ho'ahu is not a contractor, and neither is Shake. So we sought proposals from third-party installers, and not Ho'ahu hasn't selected exactly which installer they will hire. That process will come probably later this summer, I would guess. We'll be doing interviews actually in this public Zoom room. But right now there are two contractors who've submitted letters of intent and proposals, and that's HNU and Alpha Energy. And with both of those companies, we asked them to give us a proposal for what does it look like for them to hire half of their workforce from Oahu's trainee pool. But we hadn't had the conversation yet about union labor and about apprentice electricians. We had just kind of been thinking about folks that were coming out of these first round of clean energy technician trainings that we've been having. So I think we'd have to revisit that conversation. I don't even know if those contractors are signatories or not. But those are the two that are on the short list now, but we're still open to other proposals as well. And Oahu will have to make that decision ultimately later this year. Yeah, Auntie Lori, what you got?
Just because you said that, and Mark and Justin and Terry is on, you know how the inner workings go, and how when you guys talk amongst you guys selves, you know that it's funny from the local perspective. Yeah, if you get somebody, then you don't know who they are or how they work with, you ask somebody about the company. And I would hope that we could include you guys on that discussions too, so you can say, oh my gosh, Auntie Lori, they flakes, no work with them. You know, that kind of stuff would be really helpful, because sometimes you really don't know. So we go through a really extensive process of finding out if these people is just good people. First of all, we don't want to invite anybody to Molokai who not going to be good for the island, or who not going to really care to the extent of how we care for our resources and our environment. So we want people of really high reputation to do the work, you know, on Molokai, or to even be training our people or just working here. And yeah, Justin, when I seen Poor Oil, and hey, there's some Poor Oil over there, right on. So I hope you don't mind if we can bounce that kind of stuff, you know, when people, because ever since we started this, of course, we've been inundated with people from the continent and all over wanting to support our mission, because our mission is really about saving the environment. Yeah. So that's how come we supporting the renewable energy, and that's why Todd is such a great spokesperson when it comes to that. He's leading the charge. We all are. But I hope we can bounce that kind of stuff off you guys, and you would be open to that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. We definitely would be able to you know, bounce off ideas. And for us here, you know, it's always been try to get locals first, you know, getting the support. And that's why I became an organizer, was to help the people of Hawaii, whether it be from Oahu, Molokai, Big Island. You know, my roots run deep on the island of Molokai. So, you know, it's definitely, for us, it's definitely helping out the local people first as much as we can.
Just wanted to touch upon the last question about the two contractors that have submitted, I guess, proposal to the CBRE projects that you guys have. Those two contractors are not our signatory contractors. But like I said, and also what Justin spoke about earlier, there were definitely we're open to being in discussion with, like, from you guys, if you have recommendations or vetting. My advice to you guys who do a lot of homework, to ask them what type of projects they worked on, where, when, what size, what type of manpower, what was their budget. That's like basic questions that you ask them to see what type of performance that they do. Of course, this so you can meet your guys' budget and expectation as well, right?
Mahalo, Mark. I have another clarifying question. what kind of resources, if Oahu was going to write a grant, for example, hypothetically, to support workforce development for Molokai residents to become apprentice electricians, journeyman electricians, supervising electricians, what kind of resources would it be helpful for Oahu to bring? Are there maybe like apprentice wages for the apprentices on the job? Are there other like testing fees or tuition or other stuff that Oahu might need to build up resources for, or like physical facilities that Oahu would want to have to support trainees?
As far as, so to get started with an apprenticeship you're talking about, or trying to register an apprenticeship or get into a program? Is that the which question are you asking? To just get in the program?
Yeah, I think just getting in the program.
Okay, well, once you are a signatory to the union, we do have open recruitment, and the basic fee for anyone would be $33 for the registration or application fee. The minimum requirements for all apprentices or anybody applying would be at least 18 years of age, should have a high school or GED diploma. We do have a MAT requirement, which has to be an algebra 1, and they have to show that they passed. They would sit for an aptitude test. The aptitude test would basically cover math through reading. From there, once they pass the aptitude test, they qualify for apprenticeship. And then, or for interview, we send them to a contractor. Then we register them in the state of Hawaii, and then they were registered apprentice. From there forward, depending on, of course, with the contractor and fees, right now our rate, or how our apprentices get paid, their scale, is based on OJT, on the job training hours. So from 0 to 1,001, they'll start off at 35% of what a journeyman rate would be. Basically, right now, our apprentices starting probably today would be getting paid almost 18 or at $18 an hour. Once they put in 1,001 hours, they'll see a 5% increase. And depending on how often they work, work-wise and hours, they can reach their next step would probably be within 6 months. So at least within a year, they could see at least a 10% increase to their paycheck on wages, of course, and benefits, and then moving forward from that. Basically, everything is about a 5% increment for every 1,001 hours. Yeah. I hope, did that kind of give you an idea of what our program, what the financial side of the program would be?
And then what is the journeyman's rate right now equivalent to, roughly?
Journeyman rate right now currently is 53.55. That's on a check. The total benefits and package, which is called fringes, is 84.24. That's journeyman rate in the state of Hawaii. I would like to touch up on the subject. So speaking about the apprenticeship, so in the state of Hawaii, like I said, I'm not too sure if Terry spoke about, apprenticeship has to be registered in the state of Hawaii. Same as a licensed journeyman, has to be licensed in the state of Hawaii. No, doesn't matter what county you're in to do the work. That's just the rule of it. So the classification and pay scale, some may argue in the continental US where some other locals may have different wages and benefits, in difference of like maybe just PV installers or residential electricians. In the state of Hawaii, we do not have that classification. Everyone will be a set scale for state of Hawaii for labor union, for labor work, if that makes sense.
And these are are great questions, and you know, I love it how you guys get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, how much money we gonna make? No, I'm just joking. I was like, yeehaw. So you heard that, Ellie. The 53.55, but with the fringes and benefits, it's 84.24 an hour. What your journeymen are making. So and I totally understand, you know, that's why they gotta be licensed in Hawaii, because that's how Hawaii keeps outside workers from, you know, people doing the job in Hawaii that can come in at a lower cost for you know, hiring, just to lower the cost of the total project, right, Justin? Yeah, so
Yep,
we're not
exactly.
undermining our people, yeah?
Yep.
So, I mean, I kind of understand that, because for a little bit, I belonged to the IASE when we were doing movies. And boy, talk about contention. Yeah, so I went through a little bit of that in the 1990s with the IASE. So, but I was making bank back then too, guys. So that was nice too. But thank you very much. Go ahead, Ali or Lillian.
I did want to say, you know, as I'm starting to think out like how this will eventually be rolled out and planned, there's definitely a breath of fresh air with what Terry expressed on how he is flexible in terms of the arrangement for the training. That'll help us to be very realistic with our students as we start to engage them with the unions on how that'll look. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a point where they will have to go to Maui or Oahu for the training, but we can set it up to where it's in increments, you know, and with the ability of having a virtual presence, so kind of like a hybrid arrangement, I think that'll be much more doable on their part. And through that process, like Ali was mentioning, we can seek resources to possibly offset that cost of when they need to physically travel for the training portion. So I think this is definitely something that can happen, you know, realistically with Oahu, with the island, and then eventually with each of the unions as we start to bring this sector to the island and create much more of a solid foundation, you know, because currently it's like we have trainings, there's jobs here and there, but it's sort of a hit and miss. And I feel like the structure from the unions will help to kind of solidify and create boundaries, of course, but the momentum that's really needed to move an industry forward.
Liliana, I'm going to weigh in. This has been really insightful and also frightening. Frightening from the standpoint of we in 2 months will be submitting the Molokai Renewable Energy Plan to the PUC. And so in that plan are all these stages and different options in terms of community solar, individual solar, and that kind of stuff. And I'm just thinking this is a huge workload that will be going forward. Obviously not all, you know, in one little chunk, but I mean that it, you know, it will be, you know, done over obviously, you know, kind of probably a 10-year period or whatever. And so that I'm realizing that, you know, if we don't have a trained workforce, that will slow everything down in terms of where we're, you know, our needs to be able to get to, you know, to at least 80% renewable and that kind of thing. So, but I also want people to keep that in mind, that this isn't just the 2 CPR projects and stuff. There's all this stuff that's going to get into the pipeline once that plan is endorsed by the PUC. And I know it's longer range, but it, you know, it gives time and some practicing, you know, to be able to eventually be able to handle everything that's going to be sitting in the future.
Well, and Cheryl, that's the exciting part about this is that, like you say, it is scary. It's like, whew, but we're looking at this right now. And yes, we do have all these jobs that are going to come down the pipeline. And so therefore, all those hours are going to be available for people. And for us to get a training program started and to get in the trainers that are going to be necessary, then we're going to be in perfect alignment. So yeah, but it's definitely not something we can sit on our hands. We got to really move forward on this like now. So thank you for that perspective.
Anybody else, Artie and John or Ko or Margaret want to ask any questions or jump in?
I am mostly an observer. I live in Wyoming. I spend a month on Molokai in February to get away from Wyoming winter. And I am just really interested in everything Molokai. I love the place. I used to work for a public utility, so I have a little bit of knowledge about unions and PUCs and things like that, but I really am just mostly observing since I'm so far away.
Great, thanks for sharing, Margaret. Thanks for observing. Sorry, Artie and John, you had unmuted yourselves and now you're muted again. Did you want to share anything or are you guys happy?
Okay, well, he knows how to do it. And when I tried to do it that way the last time, it did not work. We are just thrilled that the people have come to this meeting and shared their expertise. And we feel good about the direction that we're trying to go and see this as a promise for our future. And just keep on keeping on. Don't be afraid of what's coming. Welcome it. Everybody's ready to work.
Mahalo, Artie. Todd's excited to work. Teo, thanks for your comments in the chat. Looking forward to any input you have next meeting, but I'm super glad you're here. Scott, I think you're the only other person I didn't specifically call out. You want to add anything?
I'm good, thank you.
And I think iPhone 2, I'm not sure what your name is, but if you want to add anything, just pop in whenever. We've got about 17 minutes left, and we had a couple of questions that we were going to go through kind of discussion-based designing together. Unless, Lily, do you think, is there anything else on the agenda that we wanted to make time for, or should we go through? What do you think?
May I ask a quick question? I just happened to find out about this meeting when I was going on Facebook. So how else can I find when the meetings are?
Great question, Margaret. So the best way to stay in contact with Oahu is going to be through our friends of Oahu. And I can drop that particular link into the chat. It's free to sign up. We'll have your information then, and then you'll get regular reminders of the upcoming community meetings, yeah, and everything else that's sort of on the horizon with the cooperative. I did want to mention one more thing before we kind of close that portion with the union reps is, when we start to look at projects on Molokai, not necessarily just renewable energy, but in terms of housing, in terms of homesteaders, I did want to mention that when it comes to the island, Molokai is considered, from my understanding, the highest count of Native Hawaiians, which also means the topic of Hawaiian homestead and how many of our Indigenous family members, friends, acquaintances, working colleagues reside on homestead. With that being said, Homestead has many projects that have been awarded where we have leasees, and then we have those on the wait list with raw land that has yet to be awarded. So I think that particular thought process is going to be important for us kind of moving forward as we start to look at the viability of the workforce and how that's sort of included with the union. So just to kind of keep that in the back of our minds on the different associations, the different alliances, and the different projects in which the Department of Hawaiian Homelands has planned for Molokai.
And I guess before we go, I mean, I know you guys have a lot to think about. I think definitely sitting down with the business manager, Ali and Ikaika, and kind of see how, because ultimately he's making the decision, you know, he's gonna make the decision and stuff. And myself and Mark and Dennis will definitely go back and advocate for it. But I think sitting down and presenting it to him and see what his mind would be thinking of that would help you guys out more sufficiently as well. I know me and Mark was chatting a little bit, and maybe a PLA might be another avenue as well. So we'll see, you know, where we can go from there. But I just wanted to thank you folks for, you know, for doing this, for taking the lead, especially for the island of Molokai. You know, like I said, I have deep roots there, and a couple of years ago I went back and I was like, this is not home. This has changed. And you know, I just want to commend you folks on taking that step forward and trying to help and be a positive light for the island.
Thank you so much, Justin, Terry, Mark. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Ikaika, for hooking us up, man. And you know, Cheryl, you're so right. Yeah, Ikaika. What did I say? But oh, Cheryl is so right, because plenty money being spent on planning right now, Justin, on the island of Molokai. And we plan, but you know, the last thought is like, oh, who can do all this? Like, who can implement the plan? Like, for real, because we have nobody with the skill set to complete all of these plans. So thank you, Cheryl, for bringing that very important subject up. Okay, where we are, Ali, we're cutting Justin them loose. So everybody going to resource fair, or we're going to our next, spend the next 10 minutes doing what? Liliana.
Great question. I think before we cut them loose, we've gone through most of the questions that we had in the agenda, but there's one that I think would be kind of fun to brainstorm together, which is the last question that actually Ikaika came up with. Shout out to Ikaika, about how do we make a good job Molokai style? Like, how do we make a sustainable job that somebody wants to have and keep and make all the way through the apprenticeship years, which I gather is what is it, 5 years before they become a journeyman electrician? I think both on the IBEW side, you guys will have some great advice for us about how do we create the support system where people want to go all the way through, and then folks on the call from Molokai, like how do we design this program in a way that is going to work for Molokai residents so that that workforce is sustainable? It's a super broad question, but maybe we'll just spend like 5 minutes chatting about it and then we'll break 5 minutes early. Is that good? Okay, cool. Who wants to jump in?
I'll jump in first as usual. You know, as a potential person that would love to go through this program and get the certifications and requirements to build for my people, flexibility is number one. You know, I have other jobs, I have kids, and I have a really busy life. And it would, you know, if I had to go to a really structured system that required, you know, big chunks of my time, it might keep me from entering the program. And I know there's a lot of other people that I've worked with here on Molokai that are kind of in the same position. You know, we're busy just living month to month. You know, we're trying everything we can just to survive. And so whatever type of flexibility and assistance that we can have in taking this on, to me, it's the only way that me and my family could participate.
I second that with Ikaika on the healthcare and the pension, and the benefits. Sure.
Yeah, to Todd's point, one thing about being I guess you want to say it's when you become an apprentice or a journeyman, it's about being all in from the beginning. I understand, but it's like, because the way things work is we provide the education, but we also provide the job as well, the signatory or the person that you're working for, and that becomes a full-time job. And then you go to school at the end of the day, 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week. Sometimes Saturdays I've been with the apprenticeship on a Saturday, them getting their classroom work. It goes hand in hand.
Maybe I can touch up on some subject. So with my background as well as a licensed journeyman person, I've been through the apprenticeship a training. So it is a big commitment. It does take an all in to get through it. It does take a lot of time with 5 years and 10,000 hours of on-the-job training. So it is a huge commitment that has to be put forward, right? So, I've worked with Terry hand in hand because he was my apprenticeship coordinator. So I've been through his program and seen the structure of it, and it's successful. I've learned many aspects from inside construction, outside construction, underground to PV, so many things. So like our apprenticeship goes through a vast training, and he or she will have full confidence of the electrical work, with a license and everything. With that subject to say, like in Hawaii, we have to have structure with license and qualified personnel to do electrical work, right? That is a state law. That's the rule of it. So it's hard to say, it's like, I want to do this qualified training just to do this and the other, but it doesn't work that way. So, because the person should be qualified. And what is qualified should be licensed to do hot work, energized work, or like sophisticated apparatuses or batteries or things that is like that can harm life. That's what it is. Because at the end of the day, it has to be safely sound and installed.
So to me, like, that sounds great. If I could be all in and get paid a living wage and have health insurance for myself and my family, those are amazing options. But I would argue that there's no one else licensed on Molokai because of that. I don't know if there's, I know we're transitioning into electrifying our island, but and that's going to provide a lot of work, but it is the way it is here for a reason. And to me, the challenge is, how do we break through that?
That's a great question. It's a great topic because similarly, Lanai is going through the same issue, right? So Lanai is going through this whole redevelopment of construction of infrastructure that's going up, and the dire needs of qualified personnel to do the work is 0 to none. So, what is the situation from that? So like contractors, individuals and organizations will actually outsource the work to nearby island, which would be Maui. So we have contractors of ours, IBW contractors, who travel to Lanai to do the said work. And I believe we do have a few members that might have had ties with Molokai that travels to and from Molokai quite often. I forgot the members offhand, but I think, a lot of the members, they go through a program, they come to Oahu, for example, or Hawaii Island, and do the program, do the work contractors, and they go back and forth to home, Molokai, and come back and where the work is at, which is the hustle and bustle at Honolulu and other than neighboring islands. That is a great question, a concern, so for us as a vision of IBW Local 1106, we want everyone to be qualified, go through the program, go to have the license, and also to do the work, especially dire needs of remote locations like Molokai, Lanai, all those other dire needs of skilled laborers.
And I would say that one of the things that's happened on Molokai is there hasn't been the journeyman to then offer the apprenticeships. So once we can break through that and create the training that would offer that, then we can keep it going. But the connection to that has been broken off if it ever existed. So, so maybe the answer are young people who haven't gotten the jobs and all the other things, and the people like Todd and me and whatever who have all these other things going on. We can be involved in other ways and support roles as these we grow the cadre of qualified people.
Yep, for
Yeah,
sure.
good point, Sequoia. And I know Liliana is aware of what's happening at the high school using the academy program is a way of trying to nurture people into fields. And so, for example, even today, I mean, I didn't go look, but I'm going to go look to see who's at the resource fair, just talking about their field, talking about what they do, potential jobs, and I'm familiar with conservation and stuff, but the electrical field and stuff could be there too, and be a part of the academy to nurture both male and female, because I've noticed in the college graduation construction courses, there's more women than men. So so that to nurture seriously, but that was really interesting to see that shift in terms of who were being students in some of the construction courses and stuff. So I think there's a potential there for, they're young, but I mean 18 years old, these are people who are graduating and they want to stay, because that's what they tell me as students, want to stay on Molokai. Well, you're going to have to figure out how to do that. With some kind of work. So the academy and that kind of thing is a way of promoting them while they're still in high school to start thinking in this direction.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great lead. I mean, for here, for the IBW, more so especially with 1186, it has been reaching out to the high schools. We've talked with Hawaii Energy Office, State Hawaii Energy Office, and others that are trying to get the word out there, making sure that we're starting from that high school level, sometimes even the intermediate level, of not just being able to go to college, right? It's always been, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to do this. But it's about getting our skilled trades out there, getting our labor force out there, because not everybody can afford college. But you shouldn't have to be ashamed to say, I'm an electrician, I'm a carpenter, I'm a plumber. That's where we're trying to change that rhetoric, right? We're trying to give that positive outlook, especially for unions in that case, right? Social media, Hollywood have always put that negative light on unions itself. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change that message that it's okay to be a union member. It's okay to be an electrician. It's okay to be a plumber. And we've worked with a couple of schools on Honolulu. I think Waipahu has one. We've done some things out in Waianae as well. I know Terry them have done school visits. Kamehameha Schools is also another one that used to frequently come down to from the hill. They used to come down to the 1186 office and the training program before we were under construction. So that we're also doing that as well. Is trying to shed that light where, and especially like for the groups on Honolulu, Waianae, the lower cases, right? The high Hawaiian native population, it's getting that word out there. It's making sure that they have another avenue instead of, oh, I can't go to college. Okay, what does my dad do? He's a construction worker. Okay, how do we mold that person there? Or, my dad works for Hawaiian Electric. Okay, how do we mold them into that direction, right? And instead of them, I don't know what to do, I'll just go, sorry to say it, but we'll sell drugs or do something of that nature, right? And becoming a statistic. And that's what we're here for as well, is to shed that light, that positiveness of why unions are important, why the trades are important, why does Hawaii need good local people coming out from the high school level, from the intermediate level.
sorry, I know we're at the end of our time, Ali, but thank you for saying that, Justin. Yeah, it's really encouraging. One real quick question, but I need to spend plenty of time. I noticed that 1186 is you guys go to, so you did mention that the telecom guys and HECO guys, are they so large that they kind of have their own organization under the IBEW?
So how the IBW is made up is there's an international office, which I fall under, from the Washington, DC. Each under that IBW umbrella, there is called what we call locals. So each local is a representative of a certain jurisdiction. Under the electrical industry, we have utility, construction, manufacturing, telecom, broadcasting. These are the industries that we represent throughout the state of Hawaii and through the states. So each local kind of tailors itself to a specific part of that industry. Some, like 1260 and 1186, they have both sides. They have a construction side, and they also have what we call a professional and industrial side. So the easiest kind of way to put it is construction is one, P&I is everything else outside of construction. So that's how the locals work. So 1186 covers construction. They also have telecom under the P&I sector. They also have private schools. They just acquired two private schools. Local 1260, their main under the electrical hub is utility. So all Hawaiian Electric, or HEI, I guess you want to say, all of HEI on all islands. And then you also have the new stations. Couple of the new stations are under local 1260. Then you have guys that are doing under hole digging, they're calling it. So what they do is they work with the utility company. They also have tree trimmers as well. Davy Tree is under local 1260. And then of the smaller locals in the telecom is local 1357. So they just cater to Hawaiian telecom. So that's how the IBW works. So for the island, I help represent all three locals, and I help get the non-members into each local, whatever case they may be. Not only that, but also signatories to helping companies come in as well. So great resources. I work with 1186 a lot, very closely. So, this type of cooperative, I felt that it was definitely their expertise and their knowledge. So that's why they were brought on board to handle this, or to kind of brainstorm with everybody and work with everybody, right?
Thank you, Justin. I learned so much today. Thank you so much. I really did learn
That's
a lot.
amazing. Yeah, breath of fresh air for sure.
Okay, whoever move us closing, because I think we're over time, Ali or Liliana.
I do need to add something, that I'm so sorry that there are that, like you say, what Hollywood or whatever has done that makes the trades not valuable. These are the most important people in the world, the people who can actually do things. That's why I learned construction, learned electric, because it's like you got to know how to do things. This is the real feet on the ground, and I think that Molokai will highly value once we really start getting our people back here who can do all that. So we're so supportive of that, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. It's good to hear that every once in a while. In our line of work, we rarely hear that. I mean, Terry and Mark can attest to that. It's always about people grumbling in our ear. What's wrong? What's this? How come we're not doing that? But, when we come to this type of meeting, and for you guys to thank it, it really hits home. It hits a heart, in us. And we just thank you guys for allowing us to be here.
Right, yeah, we're just about 10:35. Once again, thank you everyone for attending Oahu's meeting on this Saturday. I know there's another resource here on the island, so those of you who are on Molokai and plan to go, yeah, you're definitely cut loose at this point. But we will have another meeting. So our plan is every third Thursday of each month, next month in April, we'll have another one as well, which I believe is going to be on April 18th in addition. And probably at that time, Ali, we can incorporate that interactive piece of working with the community and kind of gaining their responses to certain bullet point questions. All right, guys. Other than that, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Aloha.
Thank you, everybody. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha, thank you.